And we've got Stitch Experiment 612. Hello. This is the second enchantment we've seen. The enchanted so far for Rhino Jafar look incredible. We had Jasmine and now Stitch. Don't forget to check out the playlist to see all of the other card review videos I'm doing and give the video a like. Big thank you to Card Market for sponsoring the video. It's a great place to buy singles in Europe. Stitch Experiment 626, sorry, I've just woken up. We're going to be warming up into this one. And it's a 3-cost uninkable with a 3/3 stat line. It's got the alien tag, which could be relevant down the line. I think that as time goes on, that could be a pretty impactful tag, would be my hunch. And then the 2 abilities, you've got So Naughty. When you play this character, each opponent puts the top card of their deck into their Inkwell. Now, that is obviously a big downside. The only way this would be an upside is in a mill deck, which is a deck where you're trying to deck out your opponent, and instead of getting to 20 lore, you win the game by making your opponent draw from an empty deck, which makes them lose the game. So you could play a mill deck with Stitch, but I doubt that's really going to be what you do, but you could. So this is a downside outside of those decks. And then the ability Stealth Mode hopefully makes up for that. At the start of your turn, if this card is in your discard, you may choose and discard a card with the inkable symbol to play him for free, and he enters play exerted. So the most comparable card to Stitch is going to be Lilo. And actually, a little kind of light bulb just went off in my head. I was looking at this card yesterday on the train and I was like, well, that's really bad. But it's not, right? The idea with Stitch is that you don't play it. You don't have to take this So Naughty ability if you discard Stitch. How would you discard Stitch? Well, if you pair it with Amber, with something like the... I'm trying to think of the Amber cards that discard. Maybe it's just Steel that comes to mind, like the Mulan in Steel, like the Cinderella in Steel, like the Simba in Steel, like Doc. Maybe there's some discard in Amber that's... I just woke up, so I'm a little bit all over the shop, as you might be able to notice. But yeah, I think this card's really good. If you can discard it. Very similar to Lilo. It's also a different cost to Lilo, right? So with Lilo, you are paying ink. With Stitch, you're paying nothing. But you are having to discard a card from your hand. But that also means that you can... I was going to say you could discard another Stitch. You can't because he himself is uninkable. But yeah, definitely a lot of synergy there with Steel. In particular, I think the 1-cost Mulan, which is a card I already really like. I think this is going to be a card which gives like those Kiwi birds, I can't believe I'm still calling it that, those decks a really nice extra bit of payoff and a little bit of extra resistance to things like B-Prep. The deck has Pete at the moment, but this card does seem very good to me in a Sapphire Steel low to the ground deck. If you're playing it, it's pretty bad, but if you can discard it, it's incredibly good. So it's good with Doc, even A Whole New World, but particularly like Doc and Mulan. I think that Stitch Experiment 626 could actually be a banger. When I was on the train, I thought it was terrible, but a light bulb there. Belle's Favorite Book. It's a 3-cost uninkable item, and you can use the ability Chapter 3 to exert it and banish one of your other items. Put the top card of your deck into your Inkwell face down and exerted. So Belle's Favorite Book is expensive and slow. If you are paying 3 ink for this, I don't think it's going to be worth it. But in a heavy item build with cards like Maurice's Workshop, the Queen perhaps, certainly Oswald, that kind of deck, it has some legs, right? It gives you more ramp. You are putting the item into the discard, ready for something like Tamatoa to then recycle it and replay it, and you're ramping. Not super convinced by it because it's uninkable, but the more items that you have in these heavy item builds, like the more options you have available, the better. So it's an extra option. It's not necessarily something you would play 4 copies of, but maybe you could make an argument to slot it in as like a 1 or 2 copy card in a heavy item build. The Sword of Shanu, another item. This is a 1-cost item, which previously we would have said, well, that's great news for Hiram Flavisham, but those days are long gone, of course. This is a worthy weapon, is the ability, and you can exert it and exert one of your characters to ready chosen character. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. So you exert the item, which you can do the turn you play it, and you exert one of your characters, and then you can ready chosen character. So you could exert one of your characters and then ready that same character. interestingly, but they can't quest for the rest of this turn. So this card has nice synergy with the rare kinds of cards, which are like, if you ready this card, do something. Like there's a Christopher Robin from like set 2, which never saw play, but if you ready, you gain lore. There's a new legendary Pinocchio, I think we looked at in episode 1 of the card reveals, which is in Amethyst, and whenever you ready it, you draw a card. But like most of the time, you might just use it for something like to challenge, right? Something like in a Mushu deck, getting some extra challenge value. Something in like Ruby Steel, where you're heavily reliant on card draw or lore via challenging with things like Robin Hood Calhoun, or something like the Jafar Dreadnought or the Simba, which when you challenge draw a card, maybe it's there. I'm thinking that it could also perhaps be best paired in a Ruby and Sapphire deck with the Queen, who we already mentioned, with like a heavy item build, because you could just exert something like a Tipo, for example, maybe. I'm not sure you necessarily play Tipo there, but exert something you don't mind about too much, but then you can ready your Queen, and while you can't quest, you could challenge, or moreover, you could use the Queen's ability again. So the Queen is one of those cards which you exert to use her ability, and you play an item card that costs, I think, 3 or less for free, and if not, it goes into your hand. So you exert the Queen, you use the sword to exert something different, you ready the Queen, and you get to use the Queen ability again. It could give you a lot of early tempo, right? Like instead of gaining 1 extra lore in the early game, you could exert one of your characters to use your Queen ability twice. And that would honestly be very, very powerful. So that to me seems like the best use of it. If Hiram still existed, I would be a lot higher up on this card, because 1-cost items I think got a little bit worse as a result of no Hiram. But they're also really good with something like, is it Maurice's Workshop? It is, where you, the 3-cost unlinkable item, every time you play an item, you may pay 1 to draw a card. It's got potential. We've got Elsa the Fierce Protector, and there's a big push in the direction of Elsa and Anna dual link cards in Amethyst and Sapphire. This isn't dual link, but she's a 3/4, 4-cost, and her ability Ice Over. You can spend 1 ink, choose and discard a card, and exert chosen opposing character. Not too impressed by this Elsa, I have to say. It is, of course, going to be a shift target for some of the bigger Elsas. There is also a lot of like Elsa Anna synergy. But I think there's better Elsa cards out there, right? Like, you're spending 5 ink and discarding a card to exert an opposing character. When Elsa the Fifth Spirit costs 5, rushes, it's not really a comparison, right? This card's very, very poor, I think. Surprised it's a rare. This card is not poor. Wow, this is one of the spiciest cards we've seen, and it's another Mushu, and it's another Ruby Steel dual ink. In some of the previous videos, I've already been quite impressed by some of the cards for potentially Ruby Steel. Like there's a 4-cost uninkable Mulan in Steel. I don't think it's a dual link, but it's going to be great in Ruby Steel, I think. And Mushu, we know that the 5-cost Mushu, I've been on record saying, is one of the best cards in Disney Lorcana. It's just in a bad ink pairing. Well, if you get a few more banging Mushu cards, maybe Ruby Steel could become serious. I don't think it's a million miles away. All fired up. Whenever you play another character, they gain Rush, Reckless, and Evasive this turn. Wow. That is pretty impressive. So every single character you play is going to have Rush, Reckless, and Evasive. So suddenly in Ruby Steel, rather than playing like a card like Maui, your Robin Hood, right? Let's say you play like a 5-cost Robin Hood, which is a card I've been a little bit down on recently. I've never been the biggest fan of that 5-cost. A big part of that is I don't like playing the 1-cost. But suddenly a Robin Hood with Rush and Evasive. Now I'm interested in a card like Robin Hood, right? Suddenly, if you were to play a Calhoun, your Calhoun would have Rush. Your Mulan that costs 4 that we were looking at yesterday would have Rush. Very, very interesting card. It is pretty expensive. We did also see a 3-cost Mushu get printed. Coming up in Reign of Jafar, we looked at that, I think, in episode 2. It was a 3-cost I wasn't that impressed by, but as a shift target, it's nice. This card is quite expensive. If you're not shifting it in, it's not going to come down, I think, until a little bit too late. My gut feeling is that this one is actually not going to be that good to begin with. But as we get more powerful Mushu cards that cost 1, cost 2, cost 3, it will become better. 6 cost is actually a really awkward cost for Ruby Steel, because it's a deck which doesn't have an abundance of card draw, you're often going to get to 5 ink and not have the luxury of inking much further. So you really need to shift this. I wasn't that impressed by the 3 cost Mushu, and that's what puts me off this card. But it's obviously got a lot of potential. But I still think that the 5 cost Mushu is significantly better. But this is an awesome card. Definitely one that is worth checking out and worth experimenting with, no doubt about it. I just think the stars might not align for it immediately. But again, it's the kind of card that maybe you could play like a couple of copies of and sneak it down. You know, you might play, to be fair, in Ruby Steel, you're probably already going to be playing some expensive Mulan shift cards that cost 6 or 7. If you play them from hand, you're looking to shift them for 5. But you still can get to 6. It's not unthinkable. And it could give you some late game staying power. So I think it's certainly got potential, no doubt about it. Mrs. Potts, it's a 3 cost inkable. 2/4. Clean up is the ability. You can exert it, banish one of your items, draw a card. Now, don't fret over the mess, love. We'll have everything shipshape in no time. Did I miss any other flavor text? I have to protect my sister. You're not going anywhere. I know what this means to you, the Emperor. Some stories stay with you forever. I did miss quite a lot. I'm feeling a bit groggy this morning, as you might have noticed. But yeah, Mrs. Potts is not great, is she, really? Don't think that she's going to see any competitive play, unfortunately. Lackluster stats, lackluster ability. Very, very slow. You know, you banish one item and she replaces herself. It's just not good enough. You're going to need to banish 2 items for her to actually draw you a card. And she has very, very poor stats, like 2/4. If she was 3/4, she would trade with a fox. But a fox just swoops in, takes her out, and then you're left with egg on your face. Which is an expression I don't really understand what that means, but there you go. Fred next. I haven't seen Fred, and that is a very different looking Fred card to the 1 cost Fred, isn't it? The Major Science Enthusiast. 2/3. This one's got to be good, right? With that art. Spitting Fire. When you play this character, you may banish chosen item, and it quests for 2. Oh my goodness. So Emerald now has an abundance of item removal. It was actually Steel that was the heavy item removal color with Benja, but we saw Archimedes and Fred, which is now 2 item removal cards in Emerald that cost 3, that quest for 2. Archimedes, I think, is a 2/2, but it had like an extra line of text, which I don't exactly remember. So Fred has 1 extra willpower. It's Benja. This is Benja. This is actually just Benja. It's the same stats. I think it might even be the same tags. Don't quote me on that. So this is Benja in Emerald. Now that's interesting. Is that maybe the Disney Lorcana game designers thinking that they want the Emerald decks to have that extra bit of item removal? Because Steel had a lot of stuff, right? Like, a big reason I really like playing Amethyst Steel is, well, got my Amethyst stuff, but then Steel, one of the cards which always drew me in, certainly a few sets previous, was Benja. I always like Benja to hit a Fishbone Quill, and Steel already had a lot of those sort of toolbox cards. Is that a decision from the game designers that they actually want Emerald to have these Benja type cards, and Benja's going to be getting rotated out? It's possible, right? It's possible that they just even might reprint Benja, for example, in Steel, and they just want a couple of ink colors to have that. That's quite interesting to try and get into the minds. I have a feeling that they might have decided they want Emerald to have the better item removal compared with Steel. I think it does fit Emerald a bit more, right? Emerald's like a little bit disruptive. Steel is more about like hard control, and item removal feels, the more I think about it, a bit more like an Emerald type of thing. So that's interesting. We'll certainly be interested to see what happens with Benja, because there's now 2 Benja type cards in Emerald with the set. Don't be alarmed, it's just a suit. This is not my real face and body. Oh, that's disappointing, Fred. You shouldn't have told me that. We've got Rhino up next. This one is in German, so let me just pull up the translation on my other tab. I thought all of them were in English today, but big shout out to Mushu Report for compiling these and getting all of the translations. It's a 1 cost Rhino with a 1/2 stat line. Not a good stat line for a 1 cost, but it can still work if it's got a great ability. When you play this character, chosen opposing character gets -1 strength until the start of your next turn. And the flavor text roughly translates to, I eat danger for breakfast. Yeah, I don't like the card at all. Bad stat line and a bad ability for a turn 1 character. It's very, very poor. Very, very poor card. Sorry, Rhino. We've got Ariana up next, who is also not in English, but fortunately it's only the flavor text. She's a 5/5 that quests for 2. and cost 5. It's actually a really good stat line. This kind of card is a card that I would not hesitate to draft. And the flavor text here is going to roughly translate to: in dark times, a crown is a heavy honor that we must wear with grace and bravery. And that is a Lorcana only thing. And Ariana, the Queen of Corona. Okay. Gadget Hack Wrench up next, the Quirky Scientist. 4 cost Inkable, 3/2 stat line, quest for 2. Golly! When you play this character, if your opponent has more cards in hand than you may draw a card. Very, very similar to Clarabelle that I actually revealed in the previous set, the 3 cost Clarabelle. But this card has a 3/2 stat line instead of a 2/3, and it quests for 2. Do I prefer this or Clarabelle 3-drop? I prefer this. I think this is a better card with if you just ignore the shift potential of the 3 cost. I actually like this card quite a bit. 3/2 stat line is, I think, better than a 2/3 stat line for Emerald. Emerald kind of struggles for board control. Also, the questing power I like. The other thing is that I'm thinking about is in Emerald Sapphire. I've been really tempted to play that 3 cost Clarabelle because of the shift. But playing a 3 cost when you have Tipo and Sail feels bad. And when you have How Far Ago and You're Welcome, these 4 cost songs, which are so good. Gadget Hack Wrench, I could honestly see seeing a bit of play in Emerald Sapphire, for sure. 3/2 stat line is nice. It's not the most spectacular. You'd rather, if it was a 3/3 and it was out of the range of like Storm, it would be great, right? Like, would you rather play this or a Tala? That's the thing, right? Grandma Tala is going to be better. I think it's fair to say. So it's certainly not a bad card. I think it could see some play, but it's not going to be, dominating the meta or anything like that. The Scarab's Power Source, I knew that if I dug around, I could find it. Gadget Hack Wrench. The Quirky Scientist is doing the business. We've got 2 cards left. We've got Darling Dear, the Beloved Wife, or Beloved Wife, I suppose. 5 cost, 4/4, quest for 1. When you play this character, chosen character gets +2 lore. That's not a bad card. That's actually pretty interesting. It's almost like Goat-like, right? It is a Goat-like card. I don't imagine anything could ever take her place in our hearts. Kind of similar to Donald Duck that costs 3. That is a very, very interesting card. 5 cost is quite a lot for an ability like this, right? Like, this card would be significantly better if it had terrible stats, but it cost 4. It would be a lot better. The fact it costs 5 and has some like reasonable stats is kind of making the card worse, interestingly. 5 cost is a lot for what is essentially an aggro card. So, not sure it's going to be quite good enough, but it's certainly a very interesting one and it has some potential. And finally, we have Alice. I need to change my OBS size for this one because it is huge. Bear with me, bear with me, bear with me. Bam. All right, Alice. So Alice here is a Ruby Emerald, clumsy as can be. Big shout out to my friend Kim who revealed this one. I think it was Kim that revealed this one. 6 costs on Inkable, sorry. 2/6 stat line, quest for 2, and it's a shift 3. Whenever this character quests, put 1 damage counter on each other character. So there's been a lot of dual link cards in Ruby Emerald that are focused around like putting damage on both sides of the board. I don't think there's enough support there yet, but Ruby did also get a lot of like the self-wound type cards this set. We've been looking a lot at Ruby Amethyst as being that style of deck, but it also seems as though Ruby Emerald has some similar stuff going on, and it's definitely going to be worth experimenting with. I'm very excited personally about the potential of Ruby Emerald discard going into the next set, and in a discard deck with lots of actions, I wouldn't have room for these, but that's also really nice that there's potentially 2 directions. That's what these dual link cards do, right? You have like, if you look at Amber and Emerald, this set, you've got a discard version, but you've also then got the Lady and the Tramp version, and that's what these dual link cards can really do. So I'm still a little bit unsure about the direction of these Ruby Emerald cards. Like, a lot of them cost 6. In order for this card to be good, I would imagine you need to shift it. Of course, Morph exists as well. I'm not sure how many like cheap Alice cards there are. I believe we might have seen a 2-cost Alice revealed already this set, so that's something to go back and take a look at. But yeah, the jury's out a little bit on the Ruby Emerald sort of self-damage cards. I'm not too convinced for now, but I definitely can see it. Like, at one moment we just get like a really good card, which gives you huge payoff, and it could all change. Thanks everyone for watching the video. That's all we've got for today. It was a nice short one. We will be back with the daily card reveals tomorrow. Big shout out to Card Market who sponsor the video. And if you guys want to see me streaming today, I'm going to make a day today a return to Marvel Snap, which is the game I made content for before Disney Lorcana. It's going to be on my other YouTube channel, but also on my Twitch channel. They had like a huge change to their economy, which I was always very critical of. And I have been saying for about 12 months I'll find some time to revisit Snap, and today is that day. So we're going to be checking it out. It's going to be probably a bit of a disaster, but I might just do like a marathon session where I go from rank, I guess I'm like rank 10 because I haven't played in over a year, and we'll try and get to the top rank 100 in a single sitting as a returning player. So if you want to come hang out, I'll probably be live all day. See ya!